So hello, everyone. Good morning to those who are joining from the East Coast. Good evening from those who are joining from Europe. And then for everyone in between, good afternoon. So today we are, we're living in really strange and turbulent times. And the pandemic is not only forcing behavior change on us so we don't catch it and we don't also spread the virus, but it's also adding a lot of pressure on our businesses, on our employees, how we deal with investors as companies, and a lot of things that we haven't thought could actually persist are persisting, as well as behavior changes as we see them throughout. So today we're launching the first E14 live conversation series. We have two panels. The first panel will talk about work from home and inventions around productivity and the virtual workforce. And the second panel will talk about distributed manufacturing, where we'll hear from three companies directly working on COVID-19 solutions. And so the format is going to be very simple. Most of you, or all of you, have gotten the Slido link where you can ask questions. But before we go into Q&A, we're going to start with presentations. So we'll go through three presentations, 3 minutes each, telling us about the companies, and then with a bit of the work they're doing around COVID, and then we'll take it through Q&A. So with that, I'm going to move and have Jinha be the first presenter for this panel. Thank you, Jinha.
Great. Thanks for the intro, Habib. Let me share my screen so I can share my slide. Would that be okay?
Yes, please.
All right. So much going on my screen. So hi, everyone. I'm a co-founder and chief product officer of Spatial. So we are a New York-based E14 funded company. So Spatial is building a holographic collaboration platform that allows people to collaborate, work together from anywhere as if they're in the same room using augmented reality and virtual reality. So people might wonder, like, yes, we already have the Zoom, which everyone is on today. Like, what's wrong with that? It already sort of communicates, your face and voice in a pretty good way. So I guess, but if you think about it, like there's a clear limitation. Like sometimes it's hard to see, who is paying attention and who is engaged or not. Like Cole on the left side is probably looking at his Facebook right now, and if you look at like how people work together in the same space, there's a lot of kind of beautiful things going on. Like you can point at something, you can communicate your ideas with your gestures, find nuances that are shared. And most importantly, like just being in the same space and feeling that you're together, that adds a lot to the success of organization. So our question is, how do we go from here to this, but without the limitation of space? Before we dive deeper into our product, I'd love to touch briefly on my background a little bit. So I'm from like electrical engineering background and computer science, but I was always interested in like, architecture and art design, 3D kind of creation. So I was curious, like what if you can make the computer that allows people to like interact with digital information in 3D space? This thread of thought started at the Media Lab like 8-9 years ago. And so this 3D desktop was like one of my like early research that I've started doing at Media Lab, later at the Microsoft a little bit. Well, back in the day, the augmented reality was more of a topic for science fiction. So, or it stays in the lab, but it was never a reality. So I actually had to build my own like camera rig to capture what it's like to experience in AR, like, this taping around my head. But now the augmented reality is the practical reality that companies started manufacturing the AR glasses. So 3 years ago, I started this company Spatial with my co-founder Anand Agarwala to really make this vision to the reality. So so right now with Spatial, the first thing you do is you create your own 3D avatar. So how you do it? Like you take your picture and you turn 2D picture into 3D avatar with machine learning engine. So with that avatar, you can simply just put on AR glasses, AR headsets like Microsoft HoloLens, Magic Leap, or Quest, and then just teleport into each other's meeting room. So then you really feel like you're sitting next to each other. So in this case, Josh, our engineer who works from Detroit or East Village in New York, and he can sit next to Bree, who's staying in upstate right now, and share all his screens, and he can kind of go through all like what he's working on, kind of scrolling through the slides or even like Google Doc. So all these gestures is like shared. So people really feel like they're like sitting next to each other, and then like it's so much easier to get on the same page versus like, you know, having to look at the Google Doc or Slack and just collect ideas there. You can of course like do more interesting things, like taking advantage of this freedom in virtual space. Like you can place sticky notes across the continents. So our SF team and New York team works together to like collect all the ideas in the room, and they can just prioritize and triage based on what they think is more priority. And our product is, so we serve like Fortune 1000 companies, and like 20% or about 20% of Fortune 1000 companies are in trial with us or using us. And for example, like Mattel, the company who builds the toys and who owns the Fisher Price kind of toy brands, they're using Spatial to manage their 3D product and iterate on their product design. So now they can upload a model and leave the sticky notes or even sketches around the model directly on the models right after the designer finishes the model. So now they don't have to travel as much. And then instead of going to visiting factory every 2 weeks, like they can just simply, you know, invite all the people who are stakeholders to the room and then iterate the product together and identifying the problem. So previously we were primarily focused on enterprise, but unfortunately with the, well, it's weird to say it unfortunate, like, so from our standpoint, because like there's been a lot of like crazy amount of needs to that we can help in the world, like the organization who wanted to use like a virtual collaboration tool to helping their employees to work from home and then work across the different distance. So we actually decided to open up Spatial until June for public on all the platforms like Magic Leap HoloLens, so that anyone who needs to work from home and works from different location from the office can start using Spatial without being charged. So that's our plan for helping you know, serving the community you know, during this outbreak. So
thank you so much, Jinha. So you basically next week you're launching the product, you said?
No, I think so our product is already launched like a year ago, but that's for the enterprise. So previously, like you had to like sign up through us, and then we help you create an account in that. But it will be you can just, from sometimes in April, we haven't yet confirmed the date, but you can simply go to spatial.io website and then sign up yourself, download an app, use from any kind of AR/VR headset, or actually from the web browser too. So.
Right. Public available version. It would be fun actually to if you could do that strap with the camera, but also with a mask on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks, Jinha. We'll get back to questions a bit later. We're going to move now to Beth and Riff Analytics.
Hi, let me do the same thing, which is to share my desktop before we start. I think I can do that. I think I share. Can folks see that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is obviously an overused perhaps image, but you know, so because of this, we're all working from home now doing this, and maybe it looks more like this, which is that you're struggling to sort of keep distraction to a minimum and balance work and life, and at the same time really continue to have social connectedness with your coworkers and continue to be effective working together in very much the same way that Jinha was just talking about, how, you know, when you work together, there's a certain sort of magic and you have a sense of what we call social connectedness. That's a sort of a social science term. It's really hard to emulate when you're just working through a static interface like a video, and it really also requires an enormous amount of focus in order to actually continue to do videos over and over again all day long. It's actually a huge amount of cognitive load that you're asking people to take on when you just have a static video going all day. So we sort of riffing off this idea that online meetings are basically very challenging. They really encourage a lot of damaging behaviors, unproductive dynamics. Again, I just refer to what Jinha said before about the guy looking at his phone and probably not really paying attention and sort of being defocused. And then, multiply that over a whole day where you're muted, you have no camera, you're trying to work productively together. It's pretty tough. It's a really tough ask to get people to continue to be productive in an environment like that. And we're just expecting people to make that transition with no hops. So we have a technology that helps people sort of stay focused during meetings. And I don't mean that we, sort of track your face and bring your view back to the screen. What I mean is that we have some subtle feedback that is given in real time that tracks the sort of dominance of the meeting and is there for everybody to view and then react to. So if in this 5-person meeting that I'm showing, somebody is dominating the call, it'll show up on that real-time metric. And at the same time, if somebody is not participating, that will also appear in this shared view for everybody to react to. So you have not only feedback to the individual whose ball is there in the view, but you'll also have feedback to the whole group. It's a collective responsibility. Everybody's responsible for the success of a meeting, not just one person. So it's sort of that combination of individual feedback and collective feedback. We then also give metrics after the meeting is over, and this really gives you a sense of the dynamics of the group. And one meeting is something, but what's more interesting really is sort of what happens over time. How many interruptions are you typically doing with another person? So I might be really interruptive with one member of my team and much more sort of respectful and sort of deferential to another member of my team, and all of that will be here on the shared screen. So this morning with my team, I took a real short video. I'm just going to narrate and show it in action just so you can see it rather than me just talking about it. Here we all are having our morning stand-up. We're chit-chatting about the release that we're going to do recently, later this week. We have this meeting mediator. You can see the ball is moving. That's in response to the change of dominance in the conversation, and that will go throughout the entire call. This is the data that's being generated in real time. These graphs are being created on the fly. We actually are a privacy preserving app. We don't share any of the data except with the participants. We aggregate data and share that with organizations today in the same way that Spatial is largely an enterprise platform, so are we. So we have this feedback to
Did Beth freeze? Seems like Beth froze. Okay,
Yeah, I think it's frozen.
Okay, well, we'll give her a minute to figure out her way back in. In the meantime, if folks want to ask questions, there's the Slido app that you can go to slide.sli.do, and then you can write the code ML spinoff in the search box, and you'll get to the questions. Maybe we can actually move to Barmak, and then we'll have Beth resume after she comes back in. So Barmak, are you ready to go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So hi, everyone. I'm Barmak, CEO of Brelyon, and Brelyon is creating a new category of displays that can impact the future of work, the future of entertainment, and generally speaking, the way you experience media. So I'm going to also share my screen to present some slides, and then I'll show a live demo of some of our devices. All right, so the problem really starts with the screen, and we believe that if you want to start to change the way that we experience work or remote work, you have to start with the screens. Just making sure you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's multiple problems. First is multitasking. You know, today we have a lot of tabs open, and in a lot of cases, for example, in finance world specifically, you would have to tile number of monitors to be able to, you know, see all that data. And then we're moving more towards shared and remote sort of workspaces, which also requires privacy, but also is very sensitive to space, the amount of space that you have available to go around. You know, if you are in your apartment and you are trying to do, you know, work from home, for example, you cannot have access to that 3-monitor setup that you have at your work. For example, if you're a trader, or if you're a professional, you cannot have those larger screens at the apartment, specifically, a lot of them. Aging eye is another problem. As the population ages, you become naturally farsighted. So people are not comfortable using small text in a smaller monitor. They prefer to have larger monitor and put it further away. So these are the problems with monitors. When you tile monitors, it takes a lot of space. It has tiling lines in the middle, and it doesn't give you an immersive experience. With the AR, VR headsets, it's very immersive. It's great from that perspective, but it has poor image quality. It's uncomfortable to wear for, you know, a long period of time. And VR specifically is very isolating. I mean, you cannot imagine wearing this thing 8 hours a day, every day. You know, that's not practical. So what Brelyon is really doing is we're bridging this gap between these two worlds. We're trying to bring the best of the both worlds into one device. And this new category of displays, we call it ultra reality. So you have probably seen this in some of the previous members week. This is basically the concept that shows the device. The device gives you a light field that feels very immersive. So you see a very large field of view, but it doesn't require you to wear any headgears. So you can have this sort of IMAX-like experience on a chair or on the desk. It's some sort of like advanced immersive display, and you can have high bandwidth communication with this. And this is sort of more aligned with what we are seeing demand from after this pandemic, where people are sort of more demanding on having a better, higher quality experience for work from home, not just for telecommunication, but also for just generally experiencing the way they experience their computer. And a lot of people have bought monitors in this time or have taken their work monitors to home, but we are going way beyond that in that sort of fidelity of the experience. So the value we bring basically is we replace multi-monitor setup, we save space in the real estate. So this is very valuable for banks, for example. If you have 40,000 employees and you can save space for them even by 10%, 20%, that means that you can open up many more cubicles in that space. We simplify the driving hardware, so you don't need to have the graphic card to run multi-monitor setup to run our display. And this is how we improve productivity. But it's really not just about the display, but also a portal for work. So it's a more immersive sort of work experience. So this is our product line. These are sort of the new materials that I'm sharing today. You can see we have been very hands-on, and we have actually built all of these prototypes. So I'm going to give you a demo of some of these right now. So let me stop sharing my screen. Are you guys ready?
Go for it, Barmak. Show us the product.
Okay. So here I am in the office. So this is basically the chair-mounted embodiment. It's a mock-up, but here's a functional demo. So this is one of the demos. This is the other functional demo. We call this the portable demo, and we basically took this to New York to a bunch of banks, which are our customers. This is sort of the future version that you can see some sort of like a curved apparatus that gives you the light field. So let's go through one of these. Yeah.
Basically, this display, you look into it, it gives you an illusion of depth, maybe a meter or more of depth.
Yes.
In this screen that's almost an IMAX like size screen.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So let me take the camera into one of these displays to see how does it feel. So I hope I can sort of translate that through this webcam, but you really have to experience it for yourself to understand it. So here's the device, right? So here's the device. I'm basically going inside now. So if you look here, do you see? So right now I have 6 24-inch monitors that are expanded into a very large field of view, almost around 110 degrees. And I can basically, have my Bloomberg terminal, have my Word document, have my, meeting going on, and all those things in one device. So it's almost like I have 6 monitors in a very compact form factor like this, right? So here's basically a little bit more advanced version of that. It's higher resolution. So again, when I look inside, I can see these screens. And this one is basically the design of our future generation. So you can see it's sort of much more thin on the side. You have your keyboard, and you basically look through and see the image. So that's kind of how it looks like. And we are at the pilot phase. So we have an early access program going on. And mostly we're considering enterprises to use this. Specifically, our customers are more, at the sectors where they need multi-monitor setups, like finance centers, control centers, those kind of applications. But as we go forward, we are planning to bring this more and more toward consumers, where they can have this immersive, work from home experience. And I think we have definitely a great synergy with Spatial as well, in terms of the software that can run on this display to enable and enrich these experiences.
Thank you, Barmak. That's great. And you're based in Santa Clara, so if anyone wants to come and experience this, you try to show us through the webcam, but I don't think it does it justice. You can't have an illusion of the depth and how seamless this is. I've tried it personally, and Calvin tried it, and it's quite trippy. It's really awesome. You get this huge screen in front of you with depth, which is and with a very thin monitor. So thank you, Barmak. We're gonna Beth dropped off.
Yeah. My internet absolutely 100% crashed, so I'm so sorry about that.
Go for it. Maybe you can wrap up, and then we'll go to the Q&A question.
Sure. Yeah, that was that's nothing you can really do anything about, I guess. So what I was trying to sort of just to describe at the end there is just that we are also an enterprise software product. Most of what's really interesting is seeing how teams change their behavior over time, over many meetings, and organizationally how they evolve as they get feedback about their meetings and become more productive. But we are likewise opening up the platform to people to use at home during this time. We have shifted our strategy to offer a freemium personal edition on the internet. We're actually in private beta right now, and I've put the URL up on the screen for you to go and try that yourself today. It works. It's browser-based, nothing to install. It just, point your browser there and it just goes. And then likewise, we'll be releasing a free trial version of our small, medium-sized enterprise edition that will be throughout, the summer, and then, helping people learn how to use it effectively and giving trainings and things like that. It's a very basic tool, but it has a lot of smarts behind the scenes. So it seems simple, but it's got a lot of intelligence baked in so that people can use meeting times more effectively. Just one quick more comment is that we come out of the Human Dynamics Lab at the Media Lab. Sandy Pentland, who some of you may know, who wrote Social Physics and has really revolutionized the field of computational social science, is one of our, sort of the team, and an advisor and board member. And Dan Kalachi, who is also still in the Media Lab, is one of our advisors. And so we look to that team quite a bit to continue to stay on the cutting edge of this sort of social science and how to leverage it here in the product for organizational and personal behavior change. I'll wrap there.
Thank you, Beth. And maybe if you can stop sharing your screen.
Yeah, doing it.
Perfect. Thank you. So we're going to go now to the Q&A section of this panel, and I'll let Calvin has a few questions for you to start with.
Thanks, everyone. That's great sharing. So my first question to everyone is, as we see everyone changing the way that we work right now, what are some of the changes you think that are going to be most persistent after the pandemic fades?
I can take that one if you like. This is sort of right in the sweet spot of what we talk about with our clients all the time, which is that I think people right now are in the phase of trying to as closely emulate what happens in the office inside their homes and in the same sort of form factors, like have a big meeting and invite everybody to a virtual conference room with 20 people, and it's a lot of broadcast and passive listening. And I think what people are going to discover as they try to do that and really make it like what they do in person, they can't. It's not the same medium. It won't work the same way, and they have to make adjustments. And the adjustments can be as simple as just making meetings smaller. Don't expect so many people to be on them. Making them shorter. Don't expect them to be so long. Making them more focused with an agenda. I mean, very simple. It seems so basic and things you hear about and get told all the time, but even those simple changes are ones that are going to feel so powerful when you do them repeatedly at home, and you're like, oh yeah, actually that really works. It was a simple piece of advice, but I practiced it, and now I'm really good at this and not struggling with it as much as I was before. So I think that's going to be a learning.
A follow-up question to you, actually, also on the social impact, side, in terms of how society might change. Thinking about things that are not work-related, think about childcare at home. Think about exercise at home. Think about all the things we need to do now at home to stay safe and sane and just on top of it. Do you think any of these changes also will persist after? And do you see some technologies enabling and empowering us to continue with that trend?
Yeah, I think two things are going to persist after that are just like you said. I think one, people actually, with respect to one another, their etiquette is going to change, right? So I just telling this story to my daughter, who thought it was hilarious. When I was much longer ago, my kid was still little and running around. He swallowed a piece of chalk during a teleconference that I was on. And I tried to suppress anybody on the teleconference knowing that it happened. And meanwhile, I'm trying to scoop this chalk out of his mouth and try to keep talking about my company. I don't think that would ever happen now, right? People are going to look at that and say, oh my God, you better take care of your kid. We'll be here. Don't worry about it. Like, so I think this etiquette around just understanding that these things are very challenging to manage. Everybody's trying to do the right thing. There are no bad actors here. I think that is going to be a huge change and shift in our sensibilities. And that's going to allow us to balance all these other things that you're talking about, Habib.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to elaborate on that a little bit. I think another thing that would sort of become the new norm would be probably more time on work from home, probably like similar to sick leave that people have right now. For almost any position, there will be some section that is, work from home or something like that. That is maybe, I don't know, like few weeks that is allocated. Like if you're feeling a little bit sick, you don't have to wait until you get actually really hospitalized to not come to work, just because to be safe and not spreading the virus, you can work from home for a little bit longer. So I think people will become a little bit more sensitive on that. And another thing that I think would become a new norm is the social etiquette, as you mentioned, is like, I don't think anyone is going to shake hands for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question? So a lot of the tools and processes and these new norms that we're talking about seem to be internal focused within teams, within companies. How do you guys think about the ways that these new norms and the new technologies could apply as we engage with customers or partners?
Yeah,
I'd love to hear Jinha's view on that as well, given the platform you've built.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So so the way I think about it is that, I mean, before, well, it's both, like, how would, like, there's like new findings after this period of going through this, being forced to work from home, and also like that will affect how the technology will evolve. Like, I think the one thing we're realizing is that, when we think about telecommunication technology, we think about like how do we exchange information effectively, and how do we really sort of share more effectively. And like it's the amount of information that's going back and forth, but there's so many things that are like missing from just the like information exchange, which is the presence and awareness. So because we like previously, let me think about customers. Oh, we should think about the communication technologists to focus on helping people to present and helping people to like speak better, like share their slides and thoughts and words and information. But now I think more and more technology will evolve so that they can support like how do we make customers feel trusted, and vice versa. How do we make people like feel the presence of each other, and then like just make them aware that like what kind of mental sort of state that each other is, like the tool that we looked at today. And so I think there's so much more, like there's gonna be like so much more focus on like not the quantitative but qualitative like aspect of the communication. So that's one learning that I'm getting from like just going through this 1 month of working from home.
That's great. We have maybe one last question and a couple of quick fire questions that we got from Slido. But last question that I'll ask, just to think about it for now, and we'll get back to it as we close this panel. I'd love for you to think about some sci-fi-ish type of technologies that we can think to see emerge faster given the situation we're in right now. You've thought a lot about that, Jinha, and wrapping a camera on top of your head. But before we go to that and address that as a wrapper, I'll let you go each 30 seconds on this particular question. Some very quick question we got on Slido is a question for you, Brelyon. Your screen, it's not touch screen, right?
It's not what?
Not a touchscreen device.
It's not a touchscreen device, no.
And then Riff, could you integrate with Zoom?
Yeah, we're working on it actually. It's quite difficult. I think somebody asked that in the Slido. It is difficult, but they're opening up an API. We actually did some early work with them, and we're in their developer program. So that's something we look forward to in the second quarter.
Awesome. I guess we're gonna now go to the sci-fi question. So whoever wants to take a stab at that first, 30 seconds each, and we'll move to the second panel. Go for it, Beth.
I'll take a stab. So what I'd really like to see, because I think this gets to the sort of social context and social way of understanding one another you get in person, is having like almost like a virtual halo of like, how am I feeling today? How am I doing today? What do I want to project to people that I can't actually project to them now because I'm not in person with them? So I can't get that kind of vibe feeling off of somebody that says, ooh, hostile today, happy today, whatever today. And like somehow you could put a little, whatever you want to project, you sort of put it and you ride around with it as a little halo over your head. And I don't even think that's limited to work from home. I think that would be cool if we could just sort of have a little sort of, emotional bubble that sits there and projects a little bit about how we're doing today.
Seen a Black Mirror episode around that.
Yeah, so I guess two things. Like one is like really the helping people to feel the physical presence of each other. Like for example, like I'd love to be able to virtually handshake and really feel the presence, yet like not physically being in touch. I mean, whenever there's a concern about this kind of the virus. With the other thing that I personally would love to have is like some solution around overcoming the time zone difference. So if you think about like working from home, things work like moderately okay, except that you live in like across the planet. Like I would have considered going back to Korea from New York, but it turns out that it would not work out well because we're in a completely different time zone. So I think at some point in the near future, I hope that some kind of solution technology to replicate the like sunlight and night, and then help you sort of stay, with a certain rhythm, despite of which time zone you live in, depending on the need, and then being able to quickly shift between two different time zones. There's some research around that, using some, blinking light that gets sort of cast on your eyes and things. But that's more like my hope than projection. So.
When do you think we can get to a virtually handshake?
So Spatial already allow you to do that, except for the physical tactile feedback. I think there's some solution in the world that's making it, gradually possible to make, feel the physical presence of each other. So hopefully in the next few years, can't really say.
Thanks, Jinha.
Yep.
Barmak?
Yeah, so I think you really have to, if you want to see the future, you have to see what's in the now, right? So I think there are three waves that are coming: 5G, AI, and high density displays or 8K displays and such. So if you combine these three technologies, you can get new solutions that you didn't expect. Beth company and Jinha's company exactly is doing that, and the same as Brelyon. And some of the things that I think maybe is a little bit unheard of right now is sort of course, 5G will enable to have better, video quality, higher bandwidth, maybe a higher frame rate and such. But I think with the help of a camera array, you might be able to actually have a little bit of like live production from your computer side, so that it's not just one camera static. It's actually like a professionally produced camera that there's one shot that is closer to your face. If you're expressing something, automatically sort of shows that shot. And if it's you're showing some hand gesture, maybe there's another shot that is focusing on that a little bit. Almost it feels like it's an interview that is produced by BBC or something, but it's just your laptop using AI and cameras to produce that live.
That's great. Well, thank you all. Thank you three for jumping on. And I know it is a tough time and you have a lot of things to manage on your plate. It seems you are also helping, working a lot and helping, being part of the solution right now. If anyone who's watching the stream would like to reach out to you and you don't have your information, please reach out to us directly, to Calvin and myself, or to Ryan and the team from the Media Lab. So thank you. If you'll be kind to drop off right now, we have the second set of panel right now waiting. We'll ask them to turn on their videos.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.